If Stephen King and Tarantino got together to come up with the grisliest /horror movie scene, it would look something like this. The situation this woman found herself in is so unbelievably horrific. If you did see it in a film, you'd probably think it was a little beyond realistic, but it was real.
It happened so fast. It swung me around, drilling into my shin. There was flesh everywhere.
Jill Cohen is lucky to be alive. It's incredible that after all she's been through, we were able to catch up, share the story, and even find the humour in the darkness for this interview. Also, side note, I spent most of my life looking for my father. I'll do another whole video on how bizarre that journey was, but it's worth mentioning that eventually I found a sister that I never knew I had. And after a year of getting to know her over Zoom calls, as I planned a momentous trip to the USA to finally meet her, I was woken up one morning to be told she was in a medevac helicopter being rushed to surgery, and it was highly likely she wouldn't survive. Hey guys, welcome to Bent Planet, where I tell you true stories of humans in abnormal predicaments, tales that will twist your mind, and this interview is no exception. If you love going down the YouTube rabbit hole for remarkable true stories, please subscribe so I can keep telling them to you, and hit that like to show Jill you appreciate this interview. All right, get comfortable. Are you ready to hear a story? Rock and roll. Well, let's start right at the, I guess, little baseline of you had just moved to the ranch.
Yep.
2 weeks earlier. You'd moved from Atlanta to Colorado onto this ranch, and you're still kind of moving in.
Well, we moved from Colorado Springs. So we moved from Atlanta to Colorado Springs. Yeah. And we were there for about 9 months. And then, we closed on this house on November 18th. And then my accident was on December 18th. So we were only halfway moved in. We still had like half of our stuff at the rental house that we were supposed to go back to and, pack up.
Yeah, right.
That didn't happen. They ended up the moving company just threw stuff together and put it in the garage. And about 2 weeks ago, I finally went through it all.
Oh, right. That would have been one of those, I mean, we'll get into what happened, but one of those, it's almost like one of the incidences where you move into a house and then you find out something happened in that house that makes you go,
right?
Wow, do we really want to stay here? Because there's a whack of trauma like attached to this house now, but like this was your trauma rather than finding out someone else's.
Yeah, Josh didn't even know if he would be able to stay. Like, I remember when I was in the hospital and he's like, I don't know if I can stay here. And, I said, well, we've wanted to do this forever. I'm still alive. Like, Let's not ruin it now.
I mean, it's a fair enough reaction when you're still in the trauma or something. And like, the location literally represents that trauma. But then that's that classic thing of healing, right? You have to almost go back, keep going back and replace the bad images with the fresh images to make a place feel comfortable again. Even with like breaking up with exes or whatever, until you have that chat 6 months later and you kind of flush out all the demons and you're back to just, okay, we're cool.
Right.
Always, yeah. So basically,
it's actually funny.
Sorry, yep. No, you.
I was just gonna say, because I know where the accident took place because I know the post that we were putting in, but in my mind, it happened in a different spot. It happened like right. I know. And I kept saying, I'm like, it wasn't over here. Josh was like, no, it was further out.
Interesting.
But in my brain, it's in a completely different spot. I don't know why. Maybe that's some sort of defense mechanism.
Yeah. I mean, that's also a really interesting reflection on how how human reflections on incidences can change, because detectives say that like human witnesses are the worst kind of evidence because your memories are so distorted, especially through trauma. Memories just get distorted.
Right.
And then they could, yeah. So you,
and we use that gate every day, but I don't think about it because in my mind it happened somewhere else.
Oh wow, that's almost
I
good
know.
then. That's kind of
yeah, for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Josh still goes out to that gate and goes,
Yeah.
"Oh man, this spot."
He's like, "Yeah, it was here. It was right here." Yeah.
So you were laying out. You basically moved in, and you were just getting straight into setting up the property, and you wanted to lay out fence lines, basically.
Yes.
So what was happening on that day?
We wanted our dogs to be able to go outside. They didn't know the property yet. We didn't know the area yet. So we had just put up just a little fence for the dogs to go in the backyard.
Yeah.
And then because we had only been here for maybe 2 weeks at the time. And so we had put up this fence, and then we were adding a gate to the fence. And so we were using the auger and doing
so it's an auger.
holes.
So explain the auger. Like the auger is basically a massive drill on the back of a tractor. And it's designed to dig, just for anyone that doesn't know, like it's designed to dig holes to lay fence posts into.
Yes. So there's different kinds of augers. There's handheld ones that would have been much less severe. But this one was one of those massive drill augers that was attached to the back of our tractor, using the power from the tractor to power the auger. So we're adding this gate. We get one post down. Great. We're doing the other one, and the auger is going down, and it either hit like a rock or a root or something, and it bounced out, and I saw it swing backwards, and then I knew it was going to swing forward. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, I do not want the auger to take out the entire fence that we just put up. So I take my left foot and I push my boot up against the fence because it's wire fencing. So I kind of push the fence in, kind of hoping that I could push it enough to where it wouldn't grab the wire.
So the auger is basically a massive drill piece hanging from the top. It's bounced up and then it's swung up to an angle, almost like a pendulum, and then it's about to swing back, and you've kicked your foot up and pushed the wire of the fence out of the way so that it doesn't come back and collect the fence wire on the swing back. And
that was the idea.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yes.
And at the same time, this huge drill piece is still spinning like a drill.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and just thinking about that is so stupid. I know better. I know better, like, than to be that close. I know better than that.
It's such a momentary instinct thing, though, I guess.
Yeah. Obviously, I didn't think that what was going to happen next was going to happen. But so I take my boot and I push it against the fence, and the auger did swing back. I don't remember any of this, but it obviously swung back. It somehow grabbed me by my left boot, the inside of my left boot. Josh was on the tractor at the time. He saw it grab my boot and he killed the power, thank God. But there was still enough power in it to where it grabbed me. It swung me around, I don't know how many times, few times. And just completely, it tore off all my clothes and just completely degloved the left side of my body from like my mid-thigh up to my rib cage on the left side.
And at this time, it's actually pulled you into it. Like it's spinning. So it's like...
It's spinning. So I remember...
It's gripped you. Yeah.
It grabbed me by... Yeah, I don't know. I wish I could tell you how does that happen? How does this piece of machinery that's spinning so fast happen to grab me by the boot, and then my boot is strong enough to where it can grab onto it? And I don't know.
I guess a leather boot caught up in a spinning drill just gets sucked up into it, right? So then your whole body's being pulled up against the auger, and then it pulled wire, like fencing, into it as well.
Yes. So it like I said, it had taken my clothes off, ripped them off, and grabbed some fence wire, and somehow, so it flung me around, spun, and somehow, again, I don't know how to explain it, but everything was wrapped around my neck, and the wire also. So all of my clothes, and it was December in Colorado, so it's cold out. I was wearing leggings, boots, a t-shirt, a hoodie, a jacket, and so it ripped all of that off, and it was strangling me. It was wrapped around my neck. I was being hung from the auger.
Oh my God. So it's dragged the clothes, as it's ripped the clothes off you and you're spinning into the drill bit, it's wrapping that, all the clothing around you and the drill bit, and dragging it upwards, and then it's come around your neck. And there's wire there as well from the fencing around your neck. Correct. As well. Yes. So you're being hung up in the air.
In the air.
By wire around your neck. There's caught up with clothing. All the clothes. And the clothing. How does this happen? There's the clothing has helped you at that stage, I imagine, from actually being decapitated, even, because if you've got wire around your neck being pulled tighter.
Yeah. Well, and also Josh had killed the power right when he saw what was happening. So yes, if it had kept going, I feel like I probably would have been decapitated regardless, because that's just spinning tight. So he had killed the power, so luckily I didn't keep spinning. And he said that I know, like, my injuries being what's left over, I have, very large skin grafts on my side, on my leg. But I would say overall, the worst part of that was probably for Josh seeing, can you imagine seeing your wife just completely bloody, there was flesh everywhere, and being hung? And he said that my eyes were popping out of my head. They were starting to pop out of my head. Yeah. My lips are blue. I'm gurgling, trying to gasp for air. And he said he had his knife, and he always has a knife on him out here, which thank God.
Ranch country.
And he said he just started cutting and cutting and cutting.
And when you say you're hanging, like, you're literally hanging by your neck, being hung by wire, and only thing saving you from being decapitated is the clothing caught up in the wire, and your feet are off the ground. So you literally are hanging. You don't have anything supporting your weight but what's around your neck. And at the same time, the drill bit had kept spinning, and while you're sucked into the drill bit, hanging from the top of it, the body of the drill bit is cutting up your body.
No, so it all happened in one fell swoop.
Right.
Nate, do you remember Nate Bargatze?
Oh, the fell.
One fell swoop. No, yeah, so it all happened at once. It ripped my clothes and my side as it's spinning, and everything is getting pushed up to my neck. Gotcha. That's when it ripped my body.
Oh God, because it would just be so instantaneous with a drill bit that sharp, spinning that fast against flesh. Oh my God.
Right.
Yeah.
But also, it's amazing the things that went right to have me still here is the part that kind of amazes me too. Like, aside from the fact that my husband literally saved my life, the things that went right, for instance, I'm being swung, the auger is high up. Had it been lower, I would have whacked my head on the ground. I can't even imagine the force that I would have hit my head on the ground.
So it swung you completely around at one point?
Several times, yes.
Oh my God. So I didn't realize it actually spun you like 360 through the air.
Yes.
And your head was flying outwards at the start.
Yes.
Oh my.
So the last thing I remember actually is being flung. So my feet are attached to the auger and being flung. And when I was about 3/4 full rotation, that's when I went unconscious. And I remember Josh yelling my name.
God.
And yes. So I know. And he said, you know, it happened so fast.
That's a wild
I mean, can you imagine from grabbing the feet and my head being flung around to in just a few seconds, all of that spinning around and cutting up my body and then being hung. It's wild.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. I guess like in your brain, you sort of see it in a little bit more slow sequence, but that's just bang, 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 bang. Like, but I didn't realize you were actually like spinning up in the air with your head flung out to the side, full 360 body twirls. And so what you're saying is if the top of the auger hadn't been that high, your head would have been flung around and then just smashed against the ground.
Probably like a watermelon. Like, can you even imagine?
God.
Oh, I know.
Oh my God. So you've already got all that blood rushing to your head from the spin, and then you're sucked into the drill bit, and then the wires just rip up and pull your neck up to the top of it, and then you're being choked as it tightens. So it's tightening. It's tightened because it's spinning as the wires are tightening around you.
Yes, exactly. So he killed the power. It didn't take my head off. But he said once it stopped spinning, he had to lower me down, you know, to take the pressure to take off of, you know, being hung. So he had to get my feet on the ground, which he did. And then he said he just started just cutting and ripping and cutting and ripping and just screaming for help. Well, we live in the middle of nowhere, as you know.
How far away from the house is the spot? It's like about 200 foot, you think? Is it that far, or?
Probably further. I would say maybe about a football field's length.
Right.
An American football field's length.
Yeah. I'm trying to convert meters to feet for you anyway. Now I'm going.
I know. I was like, I was impressed you said feet, and I'm like, what's happening? Whose measure are we going on here?
Whose feet are we talking about?
Yeah. Are they flat or are they not flat? Like, yeah. So he said he's just screaming. He said he was screaming so hard that blood came out of his throat. And you know, we're really close with our neighbors now, but we had just moved in and they were gone.
So they weren't.
And they actually, yeah. So he said he just cut as hard as he could. He said, I mean, that's the only way that I would, you know, I have to have an airway. So, he said he's never worked that hard in his entire life. I mean, can you imagine how tight that is and how many layers? Again, t-shirt, hoodie, jacket, hat, like just
tightly wound up like from machinery, like machinery strength pulling. So it's not like someone's used their hands to tie up a knot and you've got to undo it. You're literally trying to cut through. So, and then I guess the danger there is not cutting your throat. Like he's trying to get. So you're literally choking to death, and he's
outward.
Right.
He was, you know, trying to come outward. And you know, luckily he jumps into action when there's trauma. I am so the opposite. I freak out when I don't know what to do. But thank God he is not like that. So,
and he's got some medical training, right? So there was a
yes.
level of him understanding how to sort of operate in a sense.
Yeah, he is he works on animals, but he was also an EMT a long time ago. He went through EMT training. So, he cut my airway free. And he said he was able to lay me down, and he had to give me like one puff. He didn't know if he was going to have to do CPR, but he gave me one puff, and he said that I, got my breath. And then he ran inside because there's no cell phone service out here.
Of course
not. Yeah. So he comes inside and he calls 911, and he's like, I need everybody here. I need a chopper, like right now. And then the poor 911 operator's like, sir, I need you to stay on the line. And Josh is like, absolutely not. I need you to talk to my daughter. I have to go continue saving her life. So that was kind of a shit show, I can't even imagine. The kids.
So you've got,
I hate that they were,
you got 8-year-old twins, boy and girl at this point. And they
were 7 at the time, actually.
They were 7, right? And so, what are they aware of at this point?
So they were inside, and thank God they were inside. And so Josh came in, and he's out of breath and what have you, and calls 911. He's like, Mommy's hurt. So the kids, actually, it's kind of amazing. They did like a relay. So, because they couldn't run outside, and the 911 operator was asking Emery, lots of questions, but she couldn't leave inside to go ask Josh because she would lose service outside. And so Davis was going out and asking Josh the questions, and then he comes back and gives Emery the answer. And Davis also stood outside and is like flagging in the ambulance and the fire trucks and everything.
Absolute legends. I mean, that's like,
I know.
Oh, even for them to hold themselves together and seeing what's happening with you, and be able to even.
I said, even though it happened to me, it happened to my body, whatever. So much worse for them. I mean, I can't imagine seeing what they saw. That's I have my own trauma from it. Mine is more like a bodily response where PTSD is 100% real. It is like, until you experience it, you kind of can't explain it. But I have a bodily response to most things, any sort of pain that I have, and they saw all that. And Josh is like, I still, I have visions of it. I hear the sounds. I smell the smells. It's just.
Yeah, they're two really bad. It's incredible. Yeah, two totally different types of traumas for the same event. Like you said, there's no way your body will always store that trauma, and like when we got these tattoos, and you had to, afterwards you were like getting almost like an uncontrollable rush of trauma because your body was like, something's digging into my flesh again.
Full anxiety attack. And I'm like, be cool in the tattoo shop. You went after me, and my body is like, what did you do, you psycho? My brain is like firing off, and I'm like, stay cool, man, stay cool.
Especially because it's such a, your brain knows it's just like, it's just a tattoo, but your body's going, the last time something dug into this flesh was not a good situation. So it would just be sending massive signals to your brain going, stop whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I have a really hard time going to the doctor now. I was just at the doctor last week, ended up crying through my appointment again. And I just have to accept it. This is just what happens. I know cognitively that this doctor is not going to hurt me, but my body remembers what it went through. So it's a bodily response, and I can't stop it, which is interesting for me growing up, how I grew up.
Control.
You figure out your issues, you get to the bottom of those issues, and then you feel better. But in this particular instance, I know, I've worked with my therapist plenty on understanding what is happening, and there's no stopping it. So I just kind of explain what's going to happen ahead of time, or at least try to. Yeah.
So at that point, I mean, I guess at this point you've got no memory of what happened next, but you've heard all the stories about what went on to save you. So at this point, Josh is out there, you're lying basically naked on the cold ground, completely cut up. I mean, when I spoke to Josh, it was incredible hearing the story from him. I know he doesn't want to chat on the video, but hearing his version of how unbelievably shocking that was, like seeing your body lying there in front of him and cut up like that,
Yeah.
And then how long before there was any response from emergency teams?
Yeah. So, well, the kids took blankets out, and he packed my wounds and laid on top of me, because the wounds were so severe, and I mean, when you have to put pressure on that or you bleed out.
What are we talking? Wound was like where were you cut exactly, and how dramatically?
So when I say I was degloved, meaning skin, muscle, there was nothing there. It goes
is that what the term degloved means? Like literally just everything ripped off?
I mean, I don't know if literally, but the doctor said degloved a lot. So I'm going to go with yes.
Okay. Oh, man. I've never heard that expression before. Maybe
yeah. I mean, just kind of like when you deglove, like it just takes off.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it goes from on my left side, right at the bottom of my rib cage, and down my left side to the mid thigh, and then in to my inner thigh.
And so that whole area was ripped right down, flesh, muscle, everything.
Yeah.
Ripped off, ripped out,
gnarly.
Gone.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And the bigger problem when they realized that, I wasn't going to bleed out or anything like that was actually infection, because, we're out here on a ranch. The chopper came down and blew all that debris into my wounds. So yeah, that was once they realized I was going to be okay, or that I was,
that you were still alive.
Yes, right. They talked to Josh and said, the biggest concern is definitely going to be infection. So when I got to the hospital, I went into surgery for many hours. And there's a whole other story behind that about when
Do you remember that? Actually, I just realized I'm going to have to restart the Zoom. I thought that when it was two people, you had unlimited time, but I guess not, even with two people.
Losers.
Yeah. Let me I'll stop and then send you a fresh link, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Right. So we're at, like, you're in the helicopter. Have you got any? Did you come to, or was there any consciousness at all on that helicopter ride? Or
yes. So, sorry, my computer's bouncing all around. So, I went unconscious when I was being swung around, and the next thing I remember actually is Emery's trying to tell a story. Oh my God. Can you cut this out? Totally took a hit.
I'll edit to just after this. Boom.
Aunt Jane's going to be so disappointed. Okay.
I so want to put that in there. You just saying I just had a hit. Hey, it's Colorado.
I mean, you can. I give pretty much zero fucks about most things these days anyway, but also it
medicinal.
It is the number one thing that can help me with PTSD.
There you go. That's it. I mean, you're an advocate for weed being good for PTSD and being medicinal, right?
Yeah, I don't know if that is, what therapists or people that have any knowledge about other people's mental health would say, but it's been an absolute game changer.
If it's helping you, then it's helping.
For me, just to, because my anxiety is off the charts. And instead of trying to resist the anxiety, I'm just accepting it for what it is, It's not going to go away. It is.
So you still feel waves of anxiety welling up from this event, and then having a weed vape or whatever will help just put you into a place to be able to deal with that.
Right. Yeah, like, I'm not trying to get ripped over here.
No.
That's not.
That's just a beneficial side effect.
I mean, not all the time, but but I know it's a tricky subject, but it has been. They were giving it to me in the hospital too, so. I mean,
it's actually so fortunate that we're of an era where you've got access to it through medicinal means, and you can get a prescription, and you can. And
I do have a prescription.
Yeah. That's what I mean. You don't have to be concerned about the legalities of it. Like a lot of people in the past have had to get certain drugs that they know have helped them, but they're illegal, and then they've got to be under the radar trying to help themselves. But at least you can do it out in the open without any fear.
Yes. I do feel very fortunate. And like I said, which we could talk about more, but I was on so many narcotics for such a long time in the hospital and they were really concerned. I mean, that's how people get addicted, to pain meds. Yeah. And I will tell you, I remember the day I had already been home from the hospital, and I didn't really they sent me home with some heavy duty stuff, and I didn't really need it. But I remember thinking to myself, oh, you should take it. And it's interesting because if I had not had Johnson in my ear every day, what are you taking? How much pain medicine did you take today? He was really concerned about my well-being, and I feel
brother Johnson.
Yeah, I feel super fortunate to have had that support system asking me, checking in on me, because I remember being like, I know I actually don't need this medicine, but my brain was kind of like, you should take it. Yeah, you'll feel better. And I can see right there how easy it could be for someone to slip into that.
Absolutely. Especially when
they don't have the support system, so I feel very lucky, and I get it.
And there's someone in a position of authority, a doctor, saying, here it is.
Yes.
Like, there's your access. So like, just get into it.
Right. And they, but they were actually really awesome in the hospital too. this one doctor, Dr. Madiag, he would come in every single day and ask me what I had taken. And, you know, they did a very good job of balancing, making sure that I stayed comfortable, but realizing that this is not the long-term solution. So like I said, they were giving me those marijuana pills to prolong my time in between pain meds, and it worked.
Yeah, right. Wow.
So, yeah.
So let's go back to the helicopter ride. You were going to say that
okay.
the second time you came conscious or something was, or when you became conscious again, it was around there?
Yeah. Very sorry. So last thing I remember was being flung 3/4 of the way around. And then the next thing I remember, they were drilling into my shin. And apparently, I do remember waking up and I sat straight up, and in true Jill fashion, I went, "Holy shit!" And
that is Game of Thrones shit. That's like,
drilling into my shin because I have horrible veins, right? I mean, I have horrible veins. Get that from our father. So they couldn't get an IV in me, and they had to get fluids in me. So they went through the shin.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's funny because I have since met the Life Flight crew. Amazing people. I mean, incredible people.
They're a specific evac medical team like that work with that helicopter. Is that the case? And was it a big thing for them to come out to you, or did they have to have some kind of clearance at the time? Was like there a fear that they wouldn't come out or anything like that?
Weather, and especially out here because the weather is crazy where we are. It's very windy, but luckily they were able to fly that day.
Right.
But there's the pilot, there's the EMT, and the nurse. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I'm pretty sure that's right. There was one EMT, one nurse working on me, and I sat straight up. And after I met them, they told me that as I wasn't being very responsive, apparently, when they first got there, and they didn't know if they were going to have to intubate me out in our pasture before they got me on the chopper.
If they were going to have to what? If they were going to have to what? Sorry,
intubate me.
What's that mean?
Put the tube down. Yeah, I think yes.
Basically, get a machine to keep you breathing and
to help out
because they were worried that they might.
Yeah, I wasn't responsive. I wasn't responding as well as they had hoped.
Yeah. And
so, but when I shot straight up, they were like, "Okay, well, we don't have to intubate her now."
Right.
She responded just fine. So I do remember that, and then I remember just very vague, very, like a second here, a second there. So I remember the drill in the leg. I remember right when they said, "Okay, we're getting in the helicopter." I remember saying repeatedly in the helicopter, "Oh, I'm going to throw up. I'm going to throw up." I hate throwing up. There is little that I hate more than throwing up. And I think it's hilarious that even while I'm unconscious and in the worst pain of my life, I was way more concerned. I'm like, I don't want to throw up. So
and did you?
I did. In case anybody needs to know, I did throw up. Yes. Right when we landed at the hospital. And the nurse, Shay, wonderful, wonderful lady. I actually do remember this. She said, "You sat up right when we got to the hospital and you said, 'Am I going to die?' And I said, 'What did you say?' And she said, I said, 'Nope, you're not. You're going right in. We're at the hospital and you're going right into surgery.'" And the life flight crew actually decided to take me so the closest hospital to us is, I think it's a level 1 trauma center, but the hospital further north, up near Denver, has what's called a T10 room. So the T10, I guess, is the highest level of trauma. And you can land the chopper right on the top of the hospital. You go down 1 floor and you're in the operating room. They have the CT. They have everything that you could need. And I think there's like 3 trauma surgeons on call. Like, if you're a T10, that is the highest level trauma.
And you were
that's
T10.
That's what I went in as. And they took me up there because they said they were concerned. I guess you have to take an elevator and then wheel me into the OR at the hospital that's closer. And they didn't know how much time, they were working with. So,
right. So at that point, they're literally like, seconds could be, any extra second you could lose your life.
Yeah, basically, they didn't. Yeah, they didn't know. Yeah.
So your level of, I mean, yeah, again, like we're not talking about a clean cut or a stabbing I mean, I guess things like stabbings and bullet wounds, they're probably more used to, rather than like that kind of a drill that's just torn up flesh like haphazardly. Right. I mean, it's like a blender, really, like on the body. Yeah. I mean, they probably couldn't even see deep within to know exactly which organs are affected or.
Yeah. And Josh said I was in surgery and in the T10 room for about 8 hours when I first got there. I do remember waking up. I remember they wheeled me in, and the lights in the OR are super bright. So I remember like the lights kind of jolting me awake, and the trauma surgeon that took my case on, she said, you're at the hospital, we're going to take care of you. And then I don't remember anything else. And then I do remember waking up in the CT scan machine, and I was like, I must be getting an MRI. I remember thinking that. And then I would go back out of consciousness. And then I do really remember.
Do you remember pain? Levels of pain at this point, or they've already given you, is it adrenaline, or have they given you painkillers at this point?
They gave me painkillers. The life flight crew gave me painkillers when they got here. And Josh said that I don't remember this because I was unconscious, but that I would just like moan, like in just pain, yeah. And I just can't imagine hearing that,
I mean, from his perspective, it's just just seeing your wife go through that, it's just absolutely, I
know,
full on. And then having your kids there,
me, so it's like, dang.
What? And what?
He likes me. He likes me.
It's always a benefit in a marriage.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Was he on the chopper?
No.
So he stayed with the kids, chopper, I guess.
Yeah, yes. So he had to stay with there's no room because I've actually been in that chopper again. We saw it.
Right.
Very small.
Right.
Very, very small. But yes, he stayed with the kids, and there was a bunch of police, fire, paramedics, a bunch of people here too. So,
how were they interacting with Josh at the time? Because you've got your helicopter crew, which are like a specialized unit that have come in, and then what was going on with everyone else? Like, other people were just like local cops on duty that heard the call and came to check it out. Was that the sort of situation happening?
Yeah. So I guess there was. I had heard. Well, actually, now that I'm thinking about that. Yeah, so there was an alert that was sent out in the area, and it was kind of, I guess, an all hands on deck kind of situation. I know there were, I mean, there were just so many people here, and the kids' school actually did a like a 911 hero thing for them, and the paramedics and the cops and the fire department, they all showed up at the school.
Oh wow, really?
It was amazing.
And that was sort of to congratulate the kids on being such brave little souls and helping out.
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Doing their 911. They were, called 911 heroes because they were on with the dispatcher came and met the kids. Oh, it was really
That's so awesome. Emotional. So the dispatcher, in cases like that, the dispatcher is local? Like they're in the local region? Yes, on the 911 call?
Yeah. And actually, I believe they said that they're using that. She did such a great job with the kids that I think they said they were using that for their own training.
Oh, wow.
When talking to kids
that'd
like
be
that.
Interesting to get a copy of that tape, that's for sure. Wild.
I'm trying.
Yeah. So at what stage are you at then? Once you're in the hospital, that's that first 8 hours of being in the emergency room, right? In the operating room. And what are they dealing with? What's the what level of concern is there at this point?
Yeah, so once they got in there and they could kind of clean everything out and they could see really how bad the wounds were and all of that, the trauma surgeon called Josh and was like, she's gonna make it. It's gonna be a long road, but she's alive. And I remember waking up after they were done with all of my surgeries that first night. I remember waking up in recovery and just being like, can I call my husband? And I called and I could remember his phone number, and they were, I didn't have any brain damage, which was kind of amazing based on what,
even the length of time considering how long you didn't have oxygen to your brain while you were being strangled too, that's a big concern, right?
Right.
I remember Josh saying that he had to actually tell them at one point that you had been strangled, and then they were like, oh, there might be oxygen cut off from the brain as well.
Yes. So after I had talked to him, and I spoke to him in recovery, and I remember asking him, like, what happened? But then when the trauma surgeon,
you didn't know at that point. You really didn't know what happened, or vague.
I didn't really know. No. I guess not. No, he had to tell me what happened. So, but the trauma surgeon talked to him, and they were like, her eye, because one of my eyes was completely all of the blood vessels had popped in one of my eyes. And they were like, what's that about? And he was like, she was strangled. First, I mean, they were just assessing, the wounds, and she was like, I have to call you back. And she had to, go update the records and all that. Because they didn't know that at that point.
So they were just like, okay, beyond this massive mess of blended cuts and wounds, okay, we'll just add a strangulation to the chart.
Yes, right, exactly.
Man.
Yeah.
It's literally, it's like if someone's writing a classic B-grade horror movie where you come up with the worst ways of people dying throughout the movie, that I can't think of a more brutal setup than being sucked into a huge auger as the drill bit's spinning, and then not just sucked into it, but spun around 360 degrees and then pulled into it and then strangled and having all your clothes ripped off. And it's just,
but see, that it's so interesting because I have no I felt no pain. I felt no pain. I don't remember it. And isn't that kind of crazy?
It is wild.
You go through this I don't remember it at all.
Yeah,
and I don't.
Even hearing you the way you reflect on it is very different to the way Josh reflects on it. Like when I sat with Josh and he told me the story, I can tell there's just two completely different perspectives from the same event. And it's so bizarre how like the person who it actually happened to, it's a completely different kind of reflection and trauma. Like your anxiety kind of creeps up out of nowhere and you're like, oh, my body's going into an anxiety and I need to calm it down. His is so much more memory based. On like as he's telling the story, he starts to tear up and as he recalls the vision of what he was seeing and obviously the smells and everything around him that was going on. Yeah.
I can't imagine going through and seeing what he did. For real. It's horrifying.
So at what
I don't know how you recover from that.
Yeah. At what point in that, over the next 24 hours, was he able to have his mind really settled that you were going to be okay and that and it wasn't any long-term brain damage or, loss of life or whatever?
Yeah. He said when I left here, he thought best case scenario, I was definitely going to lose my leg. And he figured I was just going to be wheelchair bound for the rest of my life. And he said best case scenario, he thought I would lose my leg, but I would live.
Wow.
And so it was kind of unreal to just be able to say, no, I mean, I'm going to be okay.
So what are the factors, what are the things that had to line up? Like, because first of all, we've got the worst case scenario of a horror scene. And then the fact that you're sitting here telling this story means there was a whole bunch of things to balance that out in terms of the best case scenarios in a situation like that to allow you to be walking, to be full function of brain, to be alive and well. Like what are the things that had to line up to make sure you didn't lose your leg, you didn't die, all that?
Yeah, I mean, first thing would be the height of the auger and not smashing my head on the ground.
Yeah.
And also the auger just being cut off because it very easily could have sliced my femoral artery. I mean,
so how did it not hit an organ or an artery? Or
I don't know.
Or your face?
I don't know. And I have a tattoo on my rib cage. Josh and I have like a husband and wife.
And a lock.
Yeah, like mine's a lock and his is a key.
Nice.
The auger cut me right up. It's right underneath it where it stopped cutting me. And I don't know how I don't have any sort of brain damage. The only things I don't remember the day before the accident, which is interesting to me. I remember that we went to eat Mexican food, but I don't remember actually going. I don't remember any of it. But aside from that, I don't have any memory loss. I mean, obviously during the accident when I would go in and out of consciousness, but I didn't have any internal organ damage. It did not slice my femoral artery. I mean,
And were the doctors just amazed by that themselves? Were they looking at you, knowing what took place? Were they like, it is unbelievable that you didn't cut up anything major in this situation? I mean,
yeah, it is wild. And I am really lucky because I have since heard of several auger stories that did not end like mine did.
Yeah, I just can't imagine going up against a massive drill bit like that and not losing a limb. Like, I mean, it's just the way the body is. You'd think that would be one of the first things to be lost.
Yeah.
When you up against those kind of blades.
Yeah.
And so,
hey, even the doctor said, if I was some skinny little twig, because I'm not, I'm just not. She even said, you'd be dead. And I'm like, thick thighs saved lives, my friends, you know.
That's gold. That's got to be your next tattoo. Can you get a tramp stamp with thick thighs save lives? Please. Brilliant.
But
So I mean, what was then the basic, just a quick wrap on the recovery from that, like, and how you came out of it?
Yeah, so I ended up having 11 surgeries total. I had to have surgeries every day for many days because they had to go in and so I was going to tell you, when they closed me up from my first surgery, I mean, there's no skin to close me up. So they, they used these wound vacs and kind of like sucked my stuff together as best they could.
And if it wasn't for that kind of, I'm guessing that they had the current technology as far as dealing with missing skin and like burn victim type sort of scenario equipment. And I imagine like not many years earlier, they wouldn't have had enough equipment to save you in a situation like that, just with infection and everything.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was on so many antibiotics to start with, and because they had to make sure that was the number one concern once they realized, that my injuries, that I would live through my injuries, was infection.
Yeah.
So I had to have daily surgical washouts, and then putting those wound vacs on, and
that must have been horrendously uncomfortable for you.
I was going to say, I just remember I hit a 10 on the pain scale. Because they say, what's your pain? 1, no pain. 10 is the worst pain you've ever felt in your life. One time during my stay, I hit a 10. And I had just come out of surgery, and they had stapled all these wound vacs because they couldn't. It's such
Can you explain what one of those things is, exactly how it works?
A wound vac is basically a vacuum that goes on a wound and sucks out all the nastiness, the extra fluid and the blood and whatever, so that it doesn't get infected. So they're very important, especially with a wound my size. I had 2 wound vacs on, and it's just because it's around my hip and like my inner thigh. So it's a very weird place to kind of house these wound vacs. So we had a hell of a time. My entire 2-month stay, we tried to get these wound vacs to work properly, and it was horrendous. But I came out of one surgery where they stapled them to me. Oh my God. I have never felt pain like that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But the hospital was so great. They were so wonderful. Like, if I said, hey, I'm in pain, they were like, all right, let's do something, and, so, we could get pain under control pretty quickly, but man, whew, I feel
like you're someone that doesn't exaggerate pain levels too. Like, I feel like when you say you're hitting a 10,
I was at a 10.
You were.
I was 100% at a 10. Yeah. So I'm like, brutal. Give me the pills. Give me the pills.
Yeah.
But
so 2 months in the hospital. That was the total hospital time.
2 months in the hospital, 11 surgeries.
Skin grafts.
The 10th surgery was my skin graft, which I did get an infection on one panel of that. So we had to do 2 skin grafting surgeries. And then I think it was about 7 days after that I was allowed to go home, but I had to be on bed rest for so long in the hospital, and that was miserable. That was miserable.
Yeah, you're not someone that would enjoy just lying around in a hospital.
No.
And
no, I have 800 animals outside. I like to do things. I cannot sit around. It's just not. That's why I was like, let's go. PT would come in. I'm like, yeah, let's go walking. Let's do this. They're like, man, you're really motivated. I'm like, well, one, I'd really like to go home. And two, yeah, sitting around is not.
Because this was through Christmas and everything too, right? And the kids' birthdays, is that right? The twins' birthdays that you were missing them all. Oh, and by the way, this was like timestamp. This was COVID.
Oh yeah.
So right at this time is when you can't even have the kids come and visit you with close contact. Is that right?
Nope. That was horrible. So my accident was on the 18th, and then Christmas being the 25th, they did allow the kids to come to my room for Christmas. So I FaceTimed them Christmas morning while they were opening their presents here. And then they all came. I mean, it was a 2-hour drive each way. So they all came up on Christmas Day, that was really awesome. And I only got to see them one other time in the whole stay.
2 months.
It was horrible.
Even just that as a mother, I mean, or even just as a victim of an accident, you want the people you love around you to support you, right? And then just being a mum and missing your kids and your husband. And so for 2 months, you're going through all that and you only get to see them a couple of times. You say twice?
Twice.
Oh, man.
Because of, it was still COVID lockdowns, and I had to wear my mask when I went into surgery and the whole.
And there was a point too where Josh had some incident with a security guard or something where he couldn't even come in and see you and almost knocked out a security guard. What was the deal there?
Yeah, the security guard grabbed his taser. Josh was like, please, as if.
The security guard grabbed his taser to stop Josh entering the hospital?
Right, yeah. And this was the night of my accident.
Right.
I somehow got put on the secured list, so nobody could see I was there. Okay. I don't know why. I somehow got put in the system as a Jane Doe, and I was put on the secured. Well, the pilot had said, hey, we're going up to Lakewood. And my sister-in-law is like calling around all the hospitals. Nobody can find me. They're freaking out.
So because of that blanket of security, nobody even knew where you'd been taken.
Right. So I don't know who did that. But Josh was like, my wife is here. I'm 98% sure she's here. She was life flighted. And the security guard is like, sir, we don't have anybody here. And he's like, I don't even know if she's alive, and he was getting into it with the security guard. And then one of the nurses somehow
and the security guard goes to pull out a taser.
Yeah. As if you could have. Do you know what Josh had just done? He tore both of his rotator cuffs, saving my life. He's going to have his shoulders fixed because he went so hard. He doesn't stop. That security guard, I feel like he would have laughed at that. Josh would have laughed at that taser. Like, okay, buddy, try again.
Oh, wow. I
know.
I mean, so he's in ripping off in getting the wire from around your neck, he pulled his rotator cuffs.
He also had to move the auger. Like when he lowered me down, he had to physically move it, and he said he just put his shoulder into it just to.
Wow, which just goes to show the weight and the size of that thing.
Oh yeah. That was some superhuman stuff. With adrenaline and all that.
And what ended up happening to that auger? Did it get a very special place in hell?
I actually have the video of they took it to the dumpster. They're all riding in the tractor. The kids are riding, and they ceremoniously threw that one away.
Yeah, right.
We do actually have another one. I go inside when the kids and I go inside when the auger is being used now. Yeah. So, yeah.
I guess how much paranoia is there just working on the ranch these days? Like, is Josh even extra careful with everything?
Yes. Yeah, we all have a heightened sense of, I guess, anxiety about, getting hurt. So yes, we like to be pretty careful. Machinery, I don't know. I still, I use the tractor. I use the skid. I don't know if I'll ever use the auger. Maybe I should. Maybe I should use it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be one of those final healing moments where you just you use it again and you get past it and you face it off. You face down your big evil challenger, but at the same time, there's certainly no need to rush it if you don't feel comfortable.
Yeah, I don't think I probably won't. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of other ways you can work through and get through the pain and the anxiety of what happened than actually looking at that massive jewel piece again. Yeah. And what's your sitting here now, what's your overarching feeling and result from the whole experience? Like, do you feel like it was one of those huge, big life lesson moments, or is there any reflection you've got from it?
Yeah. Overall, we have slowed down a lot. We just want to, doing things a little bit simpler, slowing down and just enjoying each other. We have done a lot more, because you literally never know when one second you could be here and the next second you would be gone.
I guess that's that kind of an event to have. So many people don't go through that in their relationship, even if they're in their years and years of marriage, they might not ever have an event that causes them to appreciate the other person to that level, because they don't have to face losing that person. The only thing they face each day, some people get caught up in, little arguments a lot and all that kind of stuff. And the only thing they feel like they face with their partner each day might be the conflict that they have through arguments over menial matters or whatever. But when you've had such a massive event that's caused you to actually look at your loved one and go, I could have lost you in that day. I mean, that's got to solidify your relationship to such a point where appreciation must be on high alert.
I'm here to tell you, definitely, especially from me, to him. We have a morbid sense of humor. And so I have said on multiple occasions, it's like, really, if you didn't want me around, that was the chance, but he didn't take it. So.
Oh shit, I've got to restart. We'll wrap up soon, but I'll just do another restart anyway, if you're cool. And now I think my Wi-Fi is just starting to bug out, which is kind of probably good that it's only just happening now. Are you getting weird blurred voice, my voice blurring out or distorting, or it's all good?
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully it's all good.
Not yet.
We'll see how this records, because I can hear a weird distortion in my headphones. But anyway, I'd only just found out you and my sister like 8 months earlier, I think, or even less. Was it? I'm trying to think how far into it we were.
Well, I think it had been. Wait, did I lose you?
It's cutting in and out now. I don't know. It could be my coconut Wi-Fi. I mean, we did pretty well with that whole chunk, to be honest. I was like waiting for it to die.
Seriously.
Yeah. But was it that the year that you had the accident, is that the year that we found each other, or was it? I can't remember because it was in the apocalypse. So
yeah, I think I was still in Atlanta when DNA results came in.
Right.
So, and then we moved to Colorado at the beginning of 2021. So, yeah, it had been probably about a year-ish.
Okay, yeah, so that makes sense. It was probably like July or August 2020 that we found out we were brother and sister for sure. And then there was like over a year of getting to know each other through Zooms and WhatsApps. And then I wake up in one morning and there's a message on our group family brother, sister, sibling chat from Johnson. Or there's missed calls from him, which was already unusual, like one-to-one missed calls, because at that point we were also just chatting on group chats.
Yeah.
And then I think it was just a text message that just said, it's important. And when I saw that, I was like, this can't be good. I mean, I've only just found you guys.
Welcome to the fam.
Yeah, like we're only just building up our initial getting to know each other as siblings after, a lifetime of not knowing we even existed. And then there's this, it's important. I'm like, and that can't be a positive thing. And sure enough, I call and he said, one of the first things he said to me was like, he was probably asking me if I was sitting down or something, and then said, look, we don't know if Jill's going to survive. I think he spoke to me when you'd just been medevaced, they still didn't know exactly where you were or anything.
Right.
I know that I remember the feeling was that you still could even be in the chopper when he was telling me. I remember that feeling like, what? And he said, yeah, we're not sure. We just don't know if she's going to survive. And I just could not fathom that something like this had happened. Right, at the timing and everything of it was just insane.
I know. And I mean, thank God I didn't die.
Oh my!
We finally got to meet in person. That would have sucked.
That would have sucked. Just slightly.
Just a little bit.
Maybe
for everybody. But
and I'll never forget how, there's stories. You guys told me the story of our father when he was in hospital, sick, and how he was drugged up. How he was seeing Michael Jackson dancing in the room for him or something.
He was seeing Michael Jackson dancing on the threads of his blanket. Because I remember Johnson and I were at the hospital with him, and I look at him, and Dad is just like smiling, laughing at his belly, and I'm like, what? He's like, Michael Jackson. He's dancing right here.
Oh, that's
I
brilliant.
was so mad. I didn't see Michael Jackson at all.
See, this was the hilarious thing. Like, I'm there. I mean, I was a mess, having heard that news from Johnson, and I think it was at least another 24 hours. Like, it was of not knowing what was going on and not knowing how you were, and then this video comes through on the WhatsApp sibling chat, and it's you, and you're drugged out of your brain. But the first thing you say on the video message you sent was, "This isn't fair. Why don't I get Michael Jackson?"
That is 100. Yeah. That sounds about right.
It was perfect. Like not only the relief that you're alive and that you've still got the fact that you had your wits about you and you could still just take the piss. I was like, all right, we're family. If DNA didn't prove it, this proved it. Absolutely mental.
I was pissed at stuff. Like the time they gave me ketamine when they couldn't.
Oh yeah, you didn't enjoy that at all.
Take me back into the OR, and they had to fix my wound back. No. Oh. Except I did get to call my brothers after that and be like, "You ever done ketamine?" No, I have.
What up, bitch? God. And
one of the worst experiences of my life, but I did it.
So you really hated it? Oh man, that's classic.
Oh, it was awful. That was one of the scariest things that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, because that's not
psychedelics.
Don't agree with you.
It seems horrible.
Stick to the weed.
That is not.
Stick to the vape pens.
Yeah, I'll stick to my my medical prescription.
Yeah.
Golly.
This Wi-Fi is now being really shitty, so I might just wind that up anyway because I think that's a really good wrap on the whole situation. If I've got any more questions, it's that was fantastic. Like it's such an incredible wrap.
Oh, good.
I mean, it's just just everything about that story is just so incredible and brutal, and it's all the combinations, every combination of brutality and luck and fortune. Like it's just wild that you're, how do you feel right now? You're reflecting on it, how, like your whole feeling now emotionally and mentally.
I know. I often forget that it happened.
Wow.
And then, because I feel good. My leg still hurts, but I don't really notice it. It's uncomfortable. It's always uncomfortable, but I just don't notice it anymore. So it's funny because I actually said, it's almost like I forget because I feel like myself. I feel, I'm out. I was chasing my damn stallion around our property the other day, so I often forget, and then it's kind of like a jolt back into reality when something happens and I have that bodily response. So I would say overall, I feel very lucky. And I don't take that for granted. You do kind of have a different perspective on things when you almost die. I care a lot less about, material things. I used to think I didn't care about material things, but I did. And now I don't care. I don't care at all.
Yeah.
What's important is, my family and what we're building. And
I sense that.
That's it. That's what's important.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I sensed that when I was there. I could really, hanging out at your home, which was just so good to be able to have done that, come and obviously met you and then hanging out in a home with someone is just, the next level of just getting to know them and especially with a family. So that was a big thing I took away from you guys.
Especially in a house this size.
Yeah. But it was a big positive I took from you guys as a family, is there's just that real, I can see that the thing that matters is each other and what you're building, like the love for the animals, love for the home, like home in the metaphorical sense of home, I really got that out of all of you, which is an awesome thing. And I'm sure that is even more so for you guys since that accident.
Yeah. That makes me happy that you said that. Raising kids is hard, and it's like, do they hate us? Do they love us?
You really do.
But I think they really love being.
Yeah. Oh, it's. I mean, you can just sense when you hang out with people, you can really sense what the core values are and where the true thing. And nothing beats love. Love is just the ultimate guiding, divining force between anything, and within relationships and all that kind of stuff. And if it's not coming from a good place, you can only hide it for so long before it comes out. And when you're living in someone's home, you walk away knowing whether the intrinsic force that holds people together is a really good base of love or not. And you guys have clearly got that. And I'm sure that was, just exaggerated, and that whole feeling has just been exemplified by what you've been through together.
Yeah. I mean, we've been through it, but I feel like we went through it together as the four of us, which is I hate that happened, to my kids. And I also love that we have the opportunity to really talk about what is important. And, the kids sleep in our room. Was a shift. You almost lose somebody and there was a shift. So, I hope we're making the best out of it. I think we are.
I think you are, for sure. And so the only lasting physical thing is your scars and skin grafts, right? Which get set off at airport detectors.
the whoosh whoosh thing, that's the one every single time. Every time. And then now I've done it so many times that I walk out and they're like, ma'am, can you step over here? I'm like, it's a skin graft. Please allow me to show you. They're ma'am, keep your pants on.
Not a pack. Keep your pants on.
Yeah.
It's not a pack of heroin. It's not heroin, I swear.
No, look. I'm like, please, just trust me. Do you want to talk to my plastic surgeon? Like, okay. Yeah, but aside from that, like physically, that's it. That's the only. I had a little cut. Ripping my clothes off of my neck, right? And I was like, that was impressive. Like the tiniest, that's gone. And then I had a cut where it got me on my boot, on my leg, I can see. And then my arm was actually trapped like this around all the wire and stuff. So my shoulder, I have a big scar on the back of my shoulder, but
man, that's incredible. Absolutely
I'm pretty damn lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's really starting to cut in and out now. So I think we were really lucky with that first whole section. Thank fuck we got that. But yeah, I'm so glad we got that story out. I'm so glad you got to tell it. Awesome. Good to see you.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Love you, bro.
Send us goat pics. Love you too. Ciao.
I will.
You.